And welcome to the Green Gown Awards Digital Futures webinar. Today you will be hearing from Fiona Goodwin, who is the Deputy CEO of EAUC, the 2024 winners of the Digital Futures category, Professor Matthew Bellgard, who's from the University of East London, and Cal Innes, Digital Sustainability Specialist from Jisc, who are our category sponsor. Over to you, Fiona.
Thanks, Albina. Welcome everybody. As Albina says, this is a webinar to particularly focus on Digital Futures, which is the category on the Green Gown Awards for the UK and Ireland. This category recognises the digital transformation which is happening across the education sector in terms of how can digital transformation improve the student experience, the campus environment, as well as the teaching and research practices. But it's also really important that any IT developments are seen through the lens of sustainability and equity. And as internet connectivity, artificial intelligence and augmented reality really have the scope to transform our campuses and the learning into more immersive and more sustainable experiences. But also more on the operational side, in terms of the digital revolution, it's about driving smart buildings, intelligent campuses, and giving that richer teaching and learning experience for students. What the judges particularly look for in this category is on how the digital revolution is being delivered to deliver positive, sustainable outcomes across all aspects of the education system, and particularly looking for a whole institution mix of enhancement of learning and wider student and community outcomes. The judges would particularly like quantitative evidence on the nature of the improvements made and how applicants can demonstrate the causal relationship between the activities undertaken and the outcomes received. And we're super happy that Jisc are supporting us on this category, and really look forward to hear from 2024 winners, University of East London. So I'll pass over to Cal now.
Yeah, hi everyone. Thank you very much, Fiona. So I'm Cal Innes, as you say, from the Digital Sustainability Specialist within Jisc's advice team. So we're very, very much at the forefront, really. I think we're in a very valuable position of being able to see and talk to our various members across FE and HE, exactly how sustainability and both technological transformation are occurring within these institutions. I think often people are operating within smaller silos and things like this, and I think one way organizations like Jisc and like EAUC and various others like UCISA are able to really get that bird's eye view, in a sense, of what's happening in terms of trends across the sector. So there's been various ways that we've tried to help with that, whether it's offering guidance and support or connecting the dots in a way. So we're very, very happy to be sponsoring this award, and really, really excited not just to learn a little bit more from Matt and his team around what's sort of led to them winning last year's award, and also looking forward to the following year as well, or this coming year, and seeing what exciting work people have been doing across the sector in terms of digital sustainability. I know from my own conversation with people, there's a lot going on out there, and it seems each year that momentum's really growing, which is really lovely to see. I'll pass over to Matt and Bjorn to perhaps tell us a bit more about themselves.
Thank you so much, Cal, Fiona, and Albina, and it's a pleasure to be here, and just to acknowledge Jisc and EAUC for what you've done and what you're doing for this community. It's really exciting, and we're very grateful and privileged to have received this award. But most importantly, putting a story together, and some of the challenges of seeing a proposal to say, well, okay, so we're looking for an award, to receive an award. What's our story? And I guess one of the key messages for our colleagues is really to make sure we understand what's that compelling story. What's its significance within the discipline, within the sector more broadly, the social benefits. It's one thing to have cool technology, but it's another thing to have the vision, the strategy, and those milestones for success. And so I guess in many respects, when we started this journey to complete the template, and full credit, it was really well articulated to really understand clearly and succinctly what the judges are looking for. And I think that was really important. So just take one step back. What are we doing at the University of East London to just put into context? UEL is committed to being a net zero carbon campus by 2030. So that's point number one. So anything we do in terms of technology fits that broader vision and strategy, because it's an opportunity, but most importantly, it's a significant challenge. And then to really sort of reflect that if that's the case, this is what the university wants to do, how do we embrace that as a role model for other FE and HE institutions to maximize the value of data and digital, but most importantly, to deliver substantial social value in terms of decarbonisation. And then, of course, to really understand that process along the way of what the implications are, for not just for our institution, but for the local authority, where we're based in the London Borough of Newham, London, and more broadly, the UK energy and carbon reduction plans. So really just to put that in context, so what we realise as a university is that it's one thing to have vision and strategy, it's another thing to actually implement. And so we knew at the outset that we would need to think about the physical elements of decarbonisation, but we also were mindful of the digital. And I guess it's an opportunity really to introduce my colleague, Bjorn Burbach, who's from Siemens, who together, I guess, in terms of the journey before I arrived at the university, which has just been over 2 years, of how do we think about scaling from the physical and then working through what we refer to as the living lab, the whole digital dimensions that impact students, staff, and our community. So I might just stop there. Bjorn, do you want to just add that journey around the physical side and the partnership with Siemens to deliver tangible outcomes?
Thanks, Matt, and thank you very much for having us. And it's great to be here also with our partner, UEL. We as Siemens, it's really about connecting the real and digital world, and I think having a strategy that really fits from the very beginning of is there a partnership, yes or no, between us? And it became very clear through the strategy. There's really like a long-term journey. So especially when it comes to sustainability and becoming net zero, it takes time, but it also takes that plan. And I think what helped at the very beginning was the strategy we put in place, and we created 4 strands. And these were not technology driven. It was really about what is the impact for students? What is the impact on digital, the borrow? What is the impact on also how to use data? And also make sure that the business case we are building also for a university or also for us as a learning curve for Siemens is how do we repurpose data? And I'm a professional in net zero / digital transformation. And I got to say, when you bring digital and sustainability together, suddenly sustainability is really the purpose for digital transformation. And that really is quite interesting for us, because the way how we set the path was, yes, on the one hand, we will bring in and retrofit the buildings, where we have technology for. But what we actually build is an ecosystem of partners and really like a network to scale that knowledge further. So from the very beginning, we wanted to make sure that we're not just implementing technology, but also creating a hub where people can get to. So that's where we created the Living Lab, which was an operating model, which was how do we bring the physical world and the digital world together, and then also help with students to shape that, which now becomes really like the digital core of the university. We started with 200 students over the last 5 years, engaging them in the Living Lab, using data also for new research. And I think now with the next level, what Matt is working on, we will scale from 200 to more than 1,000 students, because that digital element in there really helps us not just to retrofit the buildings with PV, EV, heat pump, and currently are at already 50% of the CO2 reduction. Really bringing that knowledge to new research innovation through digital. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been possible. So I think that's the exciting part for us, to being part of that journey with Matt and the team, and also being part with a little contributor also to this award. So thanks a lot.
Thank you, Bjorn. And really just to sort of to echo what Bjorn's shared, most importantly, it wasn't just about applying for an award to receive it. It is digital futures. So what's next? We always ask that question, what's next? How do we open that data and make it available, not just for ourselves, but for our colleagues, our partners in the region and more broadly? And what would be that mechanism? So you're absolutely right in terms of how do we scale that from a research, innovation, but most importantly, fundamental questions. And Bjorn and the team know the journey of retrofitting the physical side of things, the BMS systems, and making sure those systems are fit for purpose. I guess from my perspective, being involved in research, is can we live stream the data from the solar panels, the 1.3 megawatt per hour energy that can be generated? Can we actually see that data and what's actually happening on a daily basis, and how do we link that data to other elements, the weather conditions? I'm from Australia, so the sun's a little bit different. So what does that actually mean in terms of the energy that gets generated? Is it different? How do we make sure we optimize for that? And then how do we link it into any other project across the university when we start thinking sustainability in fashion, in health, in smart tech and artificial intelligence? So we were really wanted to make sure that the open data platform that we've sort of evolved this Living Lab into is actually stepped into that. And I guess there was one really key point for colleagues, which is, and I guess I want to take the opportunity to the judges' comments. They were really important. If we didn't answer the question well enough the first time, we had a chance to really sort of respond. And some of those key questions were, yes, they liked the concept of the Living Lab, but what was the actual tangible impact for students, research, professional staff, more broadly to the community? And if we start thinking about the broader perspectives, how would we roll it out in a step-by-step process? So we were really thinking to really articulate that and make sure that we've thought about resource efficiency, enhanced learning and research, operational efficiencies, collaboration and partnerships, the engagement between student staff, and more importantly, as an institution, between the departments and the schools. And so what's really exciting is some of the next steps, which we can talk about shortly, but really ensuring that engineering students are connected with digital students. And it's sometimes easier said than done because everyone is busy, the core business of a university. But from our perspective, we want to make sure that the value is greater than the parts, and bringing them together, and now even bringing in the business students, of making sure we understand if we want to retrofit a room with IoT devices and we're streaming information inside a room in terms of carbon dioxide, humidity, air quality, room occupancy in and of itself, as you can imagine all the different applications for it. Why do we want to do that? And how quick can we do that? So I might just hand over to Bjorn to follow up on that.
Thanks. And maybe just allow me one more comment. When we started in 2020, I mean, 3 years later, Microsoft came out with ChatGPT. So when I'm just thinking about how we change then also the infrastructure, the IT infrastructure, to make sure that we're going to use all these tools, introducing our CoreDAP as an open ecosystem, and trying to bring in all the time the new innovation which is available in the market, really helps a lot to engage them with students and others. And that's where I'm coming to, that retrofit at speed, where we said, okay, now you have new tools, you have data which you can stream live, and you have a very flexible platform where you have AI models which you can configure. How fast is the university to retrofit rooms and floors by itself, and really start test and learn in a sandbox environment where you don't interfere with the operation of a smart building, but you digital twinning the whole area, and then you can use this data to do new research. And I really liked it because we were setting up the challenge, and I think 3 days later we already had the results before we were formulating formulating the entire program. So I think that's quite interesting, and it's great to see that the students and the staff is picking up on that. And that's, by the way, also for us as a corporate, quite important to learn, because we also embrace innovation, but then it's great to see that our partners are innovating at speed, and that really helps us also to motivate us to catch up with all that innovation which is out. And these are just little examples, but it's quite exciting for us too.
Yeah, Bjorn, and you really hit the nail. And there was some conversations that we had, Bjorn and I, which was, if we want as an institution, we can procure the services of an entity such as Siemens to do the fit out of IoT devices in each of the rooms. And of course, Bjorn and I said, well, hang on, we can do that. It'll cost, as you can imagine, for that sort of activity, but surely we can have oversight working between the institution and Siemens, and make these student-led projects and coordinated. And this was the exciting sort of dimension of where this digital futures started. And as Bjorn's highlighted, technologies can change, but are we strategic enough to ensure that we can continue that digital future no matter what technologies are changing? What is our vision and remit, which was to ensure that data principles is open, available, can stream and integrate with other data sets, and then allow the opportunity of innovation and questions. And what we always identify is that with our students, talent wherever it's found at our university, and it's really important that it's extraordinary. As Bjorn said, within a couple of days, we already had digital dashboards leveraging and showcasing to our local authority, the Greater London Authority, some of the amazing work that we've done. So I think that's a really important dimension. And on the back of all of this, the university is now launched with the London Borough of Newham, so local authority. One of the UK firsts really is the UK AI Centre in the public sector. So we really wanted to understand how we can utilise this open data in a mindset, working with our local authorities. So anything that we do within the institution, working with our partners, can have a ripple effect and can have impact to the broader community. Bjorn, I don't know whether you wanted to sort of just mention that context here before we, talk about some of the exciting next steps.
Yeah, and I think it's all about scale, right? And we talked about it at the very beginning. Who are the stakeholders we need? So, for example, when we talk digital transformation, yes, there's a big component about technology. We really need to talk about the impact, the business case, the funding, the legal framework. So there is a lot you want to scale in. If you want to scale, you need that ecosystem of also partners in the university or outside the university to retrofit not just the building, but really change the environment. And I think that's the interesting part is that a blueprint maybe for the Royal Docks, and how can the idea of a living lab, which eventually is like the digital twin of the environment, can that be already like a blueprint for a digital Royal Docks area, where other corporations and other universities actually can jump on and take our learnings? I mean, we also had a couple of rounds where we weren't quite successful at the very beginning, but we reiterate. I think that's the agile process you want to have. And I think in a partnership, it's easier to fail because you have that strong network. And I think that makes it also so easy to go to the next stage, because there's a big supporting element in it. And that really for us is that scaling piece. We got 5 years in until net zero will be reached for entire UEL. And in the next 5 years, there will be so much innovation. And I think also from a political environment, so much change is coming, which will be quite interesting for us to bring into this partnership, because it could be another step into a sustainable and digital transformation of the broader Newham environment.
Thank you, Bjorn. And certainly you mentioned some really important points there. Its roles and responsibilities, the agility and who should be involved. And of course, we've had from our Vice Chancellor and President, Professor Amanda Broderick, our Provost, Professor Hassan Abdallah, our Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dean Curtis, and involved in the States, and the whole Estates team And then of course all our academics and other professional staff. It's actually a team-based initiative that is from the top led, and the vision. And of course, we don't stop there. And just to put things into context, I don't know how much time we have, Carl, Fiona, and Alvina, but really just to highlight that this journey around the digital and the living lab has then, I guess, reflected with our anchor institutions around this region here, in the only London Royal Enterprise Zone, the Royal Docks Enterprise Zone, where we are now instituting the largest water source heat pump in the Royal Docks area. If you know London City Airport, that waterway, the Royal Docks there, that's where we are working with Siemens to embed that as one to help us remove 20. At the moment, we've got 10% of our carbon dioxide reduction, but with this, it'll be 25% with this water source heat pump. And maybe Bjorn can talk to that quickly, but most importantly, as an exemplar for the rest of the region, we can do that. Surely our colleagues can harness that, leverage upon it, and how do we give back to the community? Because ultimately, we want to ensure that the residents that live around our institutions, not just the corporates, our partners, anchor institutions, but also the residents can benefit from the energy that we can generate and can share across all the partnerships.
Maybe just as you asked, basically we are in step 3 now when it comes to the net zero decarbonization journey. Step 1 was really around BMS, making sure that the building will be optimized, which we called reduction, so reduce phase 1. Then we introduced the next phase, which was produce, where we had the PV panel on top. And now we're getting into the next stage, which is like the big jump, adding heat pump in our reduce 2 phase, where we really can, it's a waterfall heat pump, and we will be able to massively reduce the energy consumption and use the heat pump really as the next big thing within the university. But again, here also, I think it has 2 more components. It will bring teaching and learning aspects to it. And we will also integrate the entire logic of the heat pump into the digital environment, so that we cannot just use the data to optimize the heat pump, but also use the data for additional research, which will then enhance also, I would say, again, the digital backbone within CoreDup, because we enrich with new data sets. And that's another opportunity for the university to do more research and adding a very critical component, which is the heat pump, into their research, which is one of the largest drivers when it comes to decarbonization. Anyhow, so it's quite another opportunity again to enrich the teaching and learning experience, because all students will participate basically in this implementation, and that's always quite interesting.
Thanks, Bjorn, and certainly even beyond the digital, related to that is, what is the environmental impact of something such as this initiative? As I said, the largest here in the UK. What lessons can we learn from other installations and implementations of a water source heat pump, and how do we compare and contrast? So you can sort of see it's driving not just the digital for our students and the digital futures experience, but also for our students in environmental sustainability, in engineering, in business, to really make sure that this is a global project and it has relevance, but we don't want to reinvent the wheel. So how do we ensure that? Well, we need to have and Bjorn's used the term CoreDup. Bjorn actually tells me that it's not the most engaging acronym. Collaborative Open Research Data Analytic Platform. I mean, I like it. I guess I'm an academic, but we should be thinking of a more catchy sort of title. But really, as we sort of think about each of those key terms, what is it we want to do? We don't want to just capture data like we're stamp collecting. We actually want to use it in real time to make decisions, optimization, performance, measuring, and really thinking through what's next. What's that innovative step that can help drive the next opportunity? For example, we're looking at the canal, the Royal Docks floor, and capturing imaging to make sure that as part of our planning, how can we use that data in a different way, in a smarter way? So there's becomes more a real engine room for innovation and new projects that we haven't even thought about, and we're excited that our students can be a part of that journey.
Great, thank you both. That was very interesting to hear on your journey through the application and obviously where you were winners. So we're going to move on to Q&A. If anybody has any questions, either raise your hand or just pop it in the chat. And whilst you're thinking of any questions, I have a couple to ask our speakers. So Cal, how do you see the role of digital transformation evolving in relation to sustainability within the education sector?
Yeah, it's a really, really interesting question. There's quite a lot to unpack there. I suppose it really comes down to the facts of, I suppose, where we are really. We're at something of a really important inflection point, I think. Because I don't think it's hyperbole to say that the two biggest cultural shifts that humans have seen in at least a very, very long time are happening simultaneously in our lifetimes. The first being the ongoing climate crisis, which is obviously something that we all need to be thinking about, and we're going to be hearing a lot more about in the next few decades as these things become reality. But then on the other side of it, the technological revolution that we're also living through as well, and we have been for the last few decades, and that's certainly ramped up with things like generative AI and other digital tools as well. So I think where digital sustainability and digital transformation sits really, digital sustainability sits really at that intersection between both of those two forces. It's really about making sure that as our systems and services do become more digital, it's very important that they also become more sustainable in terms of infrastructure, in terms of procurement, design and use as well. And ultimately, when we look at it through the lens of education, it's today's students who are going to feel this the most directly, whether that's through the careers that they pursue, or the systems that they inherit from us, or the challenges that they're going to face, in the next 20, 30, 40 years. These will all be shaped how we respond to the climate crisis and digital transformation right now. We really are at that point where we're setting that path, essentially. The world in 30 years from now is going to look radically different because of the power of these two forces, the climate crisis and digital transformation. We also really need to recognise that digital transformation is not just it's easy to just become fixated on the negative sides of it, but it can be both a problem and a solution. We need to recognise that these digital tools, these digital systems, are part of both of that, really. Whether it's data centres, whether it's the hardware we use, cloud platforms, they all do have a carbon footprint, but at the same time, these digital tools can help institutions to do things like cut waste, improve efficiency, and ultimately make smarter decisions. I think what's been very promising is seeing this shift from the digital elements of this transformation being treated as purely operational issues, and they're becoming something a bit more embedded, something a bit more strategic, I suppose. They're now seeming to cut more across curriculum, estates, procurement, governance, all of these things within an institution, then all of those things across the sector as well. I think within that as well, there's a massive cultural shift happening. So digital transformation isn't just about tools now, it's about the people who use them, it's how these decisions are made, and really how we build literacy around things like digital impact. I think we're definitely seeing this accelerated far beyond what we would have thought 5 or 10 years ago with the explosion of generative AI and automated tools. So I think ultimately digital transformation is evolving into one of the most powerful enablers of sustainability, but only if we make those intentional choices about how we design, deliver, and govern them. And in education, that means building systems that don't just serve our needs today, but really they help to make tomorrow a lot more sustainable for the very students that we're hoping to serve.
Great, thank you, Cal. I have a question from Lorraine. What were the biggest barriers you faced in making the data available to students, especially where data is in different formats on different platforms, and how did you overcome them? I suppose this can be a question to both you, Cal, and Matt.
Do you want me to have a go first, Cal?
You please do, yes, that sounds great.
Yeah, look, really good question. The challenge always the reason why we have CORDAP is that we wanted to make sure it was open. So yes, there are different platforms. Certainly the IoT devices, and Bjorn can certainly talk to that, that some of these devices have their own proprietary formats. And the key challenge is the principles of how do we make data available. So that was really important, point number one. That it doesn't matter whether you have a proprietary format or not. Can we extract out in real time the energy that gets generated from a solar panel, and depending on the vendor and the supplier, sometimes these technologies, the way that you can access the technical term, an API, application programming interface, you may not be able to get access to that data. So that's where working with Siemens comes to play. And Cal, you made a really important point, and I just want to link it through. How do we ensure data is available, and the challenges? Well, it really comes down to partnerships and collaboration. So sometimes, depending on where you're coming from, you may not have access to the bigger picture of how things can connect. And I guess the advantage from my perspective and my background in digital and data was to ensure that whatever platform that we developed for the university had to be shared, had to be accessible by all. So I think that was our starting point. And then fortunately, working with Siemens and other cloud providers, we're able to bring these different threads together. And but the challenges are there. Do people understand what the implications are? Is it safe? Is it secure? There is a legacy in IT, and that's the nature of enterprise computing. What we're describing is not an enterprise computing solution. We're describing an innovation digital platform, and it really is around that research to be able to provide the opportunities. But then again, what comes out clear is what's the governance? What do we make available? Is it clear that when you have access to the information that you understand the obligations of using it, understanding the obligations of the platform? So I might stop there. And Bjorn, is there anything further to add before we pass back to Cal?
I would just add, I think the major breakthrough we had was when we introduced that hybrid IT strategy, where we said on the one hand, you have custom built software, because it's so individual to a university to make sure that it's flexible enough for all the institution, and then combine that with operational IT software, where you have predefined codes, developments, use cases. And if you bring both together in that hybrid IT architecture, then you get the benefits of both worlds. And I think for me, that's quite an interesting part of how the university is currently building up the IT backbone, because it helps a lot to create new use cases across many different institutions and breaks all the silos.
And it is managing sideways, managing down, managing up, managing in all directions, because sometimes, and what's so exciting working with Bjorn is that we may understand it and get it, but we need to make sure that that's communicated in the right ways of how do we deliver, how do we engage with an IT services department that is got business as usual that they need to take care of, and something as exciting from our perspective, digital futures, may not be their priority when they've got to make sure that everything is ticking smoothly in an institution. So it's really just managing, balancing, understanding how to navigate through, and understanding what their needs are, what their concerns are, because at the end of the day, we're all end users in some form, and others are producers, and sometimes we're generating, but we're also being customers of different platforms. So it's just working through the different navigations, understanding that ecosystem as Bjorn's highlighted, and then working through how do we ensure that we can provide assurance, confidence to all stakeholders that whatever decisions we make are collective and are shared, but most importantly, are grounded. So the last thing you want is systems that are available that can actually cause anyone, any institution, angst in forms of in terms of reputation or breaches. So we need to be really careful around that governance. I think that's really important.
Great, thank you both. So I have another question for, and I think this applies to, say, both of you, Matt and Cal. What advice would you give to institutions looking to use digital tools to address sustainability priorities?
Well, Cal, how about didn't give you a chance to speak on that last one, so maybe it's a segue to you, and then we can take it
Oh,
take it
sorry.
from there, Cal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of things that are being doing and that are being done, and we can definitely sort of double down on. I think there's it's definitely around sort of creating a sense of community. I think we can't tackle this huge global issue that we've got, and this time of change that we're in, just as individuals, as small teams, or even as institutions. I think there is really that need to try to link all of those things together. And that's definitely been an area that we've been focused on for the last 18 months here at Jisc in terms of trying to provide a platform for that, really. I think it's really important to make sure that institutions aren't just left to figure it out alone, but to make sure that they do have access to the right tools and knowledge and support to help them to take action. So there's been several ways that we've done this, and we've tried to be very sort of guided by the needs of the institutions we work with, rather than just sort of wading in and offering advice that we think people should have, or trying to solve problems that perhaps where others should be prioritized, really. We've been doing this through workshops and practical guidance through our Driving Digital Sustainability workshops. The idea being to help institutions to identify high impact and low cost interventions, so that low hanging fruit in a sense, those easy wins. So everything from decluttering cloud storage to improving procurement practices or managing digital waste. So we've definitely been doing that through our workshops and practical guidance. We've also on the recommendations from talking to our members, trying to create sort of community and peer learning as well. So we facilitate an FE and skills digital sustainability community, brings together over 250 people from across the sector, from practitioner staff to IT managers to principals, to share ideas and challenges and really just try to create an open, practical space for peer learning and support. And then a final way in which we're definitely trying to offer that support as well is through our newsletter, digital sustainability newsletter, and trying to act as a key connector, really. And as I said in the introduction there, really act as a bit of a nexus point. So within the newsletter, which I create each month, on the surface, it's a great way to sort of stay connected with the latest news and developments around digital sustainability. But I think where it becomes very, very important, which is the exact same as how the Green Gown Awards work as well, I think, is through our member highlights section, where we really just try to shine the light on the brilliant work that's happening across the sector, throughout colleges and universities, in terms of digital sustainability. So the idea being, which I know from conversations with yourselves at the EAUC, it's something that you're very, very much on board with as well, is not just really celebrating the successes that people are doing across the sector, but really trying to help others see what's possible. So I think it's often that spark of real world inspiration that can really give others the confidence to take that first step, or really sort of get through the various bits of misinformation, or sort of the lack of inspiration that can, even people with the best intentions, it can sometimes cloud the conversation, I think. So I think seeing where others are doing well can definitely help others to sort of make that difference. So I think it makes digital sustainability feel a little bit less overwhelming, and something that's not only achievable but already very, very much underway across the sector, and something that they can join in with. I think that's something that EAUC do very well, and I think that's something that we're really trying to craft with our support and guidance from Jisc as well.
There's not much more to add to that, Callie. You've been very comprehensive in your response, and just some key points to just, I guess, to emphasize. One is collaboration and partnership. That goes without saying. And what's exciting about Jisc is that we've got someone to talk to, which is that if we implement or develop something within an institution, how do we communicate that success? Yes, we can win an award and we have a webinar like this, but that's almost serendipity. We can actually have a systematic approach to be able to showcase what is best practice, what are the lessons learned, and how can we scale up and scale out. And I think they're two really key points there. There were other comments that I thought, but I've just forgotten them. But I might just hand over to Bjorn. Is there anything further to add?
I think the only thing I would add is we need the strategy itself, and how do you implement and operate. It sounds very simple, but I think that's always when you try to bring in the next step, reflect on what we do. And I think the way how we looked into this is what's good for the students, what's good for the community. So we didn't talk digital first. We just made it digital first, and really like the purpose itself is driving all the initiatives. It sounds very simple, but I think that's the foundation of the journey, and I think that's the lessons learned for me. To have that good operation model would really helps you to navigate through this +5 years, and don't be shy to also calibrate it again. It's okay to maybe go into the wrong direction, but at one point stop and just recalibrate. It's so important, and I think that's what it's about. To really drive it not as a project, but really as a program.
Yeah, fantastic, Bjorn, and thank you. You just sparked a reminder of what I wanted to say, but what you just highlighted, user stories. Who are the end users? Who's going to be impacted by what we do? And that's really the Green Gown Award. Making sure you understand, yeah, there can be discipline advances, but what's the wider social benefit, and who are those end users? What would they see from a perspective of what we're doing? And I guess part of this, all of this, is best practice. Sometimes it is you got to suck it and see, is the expression we say in Australia. I don't know if that's a term that you use over here, but sometimes you just don't know, and that's that agility. That if you're going to fail, you fail fast, and you get the feedback really quickly, and then move on to the next opportunity. And I guess that's been the exciting journey that I've had here at UEL, working with Siemens, to be able to be agile, to be creative, to try things out, and then move on to the next elements. But sharing the lessons learned, and I think there's an opportunity, I guess, for EAUC and for Jisc to leverage on what we've done, leverage on our success. So thank you so much to you and the judges for all the support. But so how can we pay it forward? And I guess that's something that we as a university and teams are open for business.
All right, thank you both. I have a question for Matt and Bjorn, I suppose. What were the biggest challenges you faced when delivering your project, and how did you overcome them?
I normally speak first. Bjorn, do you want to go first?
I'll give a technical answer and a more management-like answer. The technical answer, we really had challenges to connect to the old BMS systems. How do we get the data out of non-connected devices? So that really was an IT digital challenge we actually had, and we really had to recode it. We had to put a layer in between, like the old legacy systems and then the, let's say, the available SaaS solutions. So that was really like a technical challenge, which we overcome. What we've done, by the way, in our program was we planned for such delays, because there is uncertainty, especially when you go into retrofitting projects. It's old infrastructure, built infrastructure, sometimes has those surprises. So we were still a timeline, but I think that was a technical challenge. I think on the more management challenge, it was to kickstart the initiative, try to find followers and people who support that net zero journey, even though they are not directly connected to it. So for example, I mean, we had the facility team, they're completely on board, so it was not difficult to engage with them. But how do we engage with other stakeholders which are going to be important for us in the future? For example, law and legal is important, but it's not directly connected to digital transformation when you talk technology and retrofitting. So we really needed to engage with them. I think that the kickstart of such a program was for me always, and it's a critical phase, but was a bigger challenge because everyone is very busy, and we just needed to respect this coming in and bringing a new initiative on their plate. So I think this is more the management answer of that obstacle we had, but we overcame it because I think we had the good management support also from UEL and connected to the vision. So there was purpose behind it.
Yeah, look, well, really good question, because it's reflected to what's our overall strategy. Are we on track or are we moving in a different direction? I think that was a really important element to make sure that that was clear, and keeping that conversation and narrative. And I think that's really important at all levels. One, and the second thing, just to add, and Bjorn's really pretty much addressed it, is having champions that understand, because sometimes as being within an institution, so and I have the benefit of understanding digital and scope and limits, and from my experience, of course, I don't have all the answers, but how can that enrich? But most importantly, how can I enrich others? Because sometimes others haven't had the same experience, and others aren't versed in digital, but they understand conceptually what needs to be done. There's a bit of a gap there, and of course, you need to be that champion. Sometimes you need to step out and be the advocate. So there's different elements of how do you make something successful. There's the advocacy, there's the comms, there's the being patient. They call it empathic listening, but to really ensure you understand what the true concerns are. One thing that can't be done, sometimes they might say computer says no, but how do you make sure that you can navigate around that? And that becomes really important. Communication, engagement with your stakeholders at every single level become critical, and that's where the excitement of working with Siemens has been so powerful, because we've been able to really ensure that we're coming from two different contexts, two different agendas. What drives the two different organizations is completely different, but we have one unified goal, which is to make a difference for our community, climate action, to have that net zero target, and more, plus. And so these were the sorts of things that held us together and continue to progress. So, yeah.
That's brilliant. Thank you both. Does anyone else have any other questions? And if you do think of any later, feel free to email me and we will get back to you. This recording will also be going up on YouTube. So I just want to thank you all for joining. Thank you to our lovely speakers. Do either of you want to add any last comments on anything, Fiona? No, just apply. Remember, 5th of June is the deadline, so you've got just over 2 weeks left to apply. And if you have any questions on the digital futures, I hope this has been answered. But as I said, please feel free to email me, and then I can either put you in touch with one of the speakers, connect you, whatever works. But thank you all. Sorry.
Just a final comment. Thank you so much, Albina. You've done a wonderful job bringing all this together. Thank you, Fiona and Cal, the EAUC and Jisc. This is really exciting. And as I said, if there's anything we can do to help and support any potential applications, more than happy to work with Cal and Fiona and the team to provide any advice required. Thank you, Bjorn, as well.
Likewise, thank you, Matt, and just keep up the good work. It's just great to see what a difference you're making, not just to your own institution, but the sector as a whole. So yeah, keep it up.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. It's been brilliant.
Great. Thank
All the
you
best.
all.
Cheers, everyone.
Bye.